the most common form of medical help being sought after in this part of the world, Africa, and specifically Nigeria, is physical health. But when it comes to the mind, how do people handle the problems of the mind? Do they even acknowledge that they could have problems of the mind? This is State of the Culture, brought to you by Izesan Speak Asan, the African language learning app. On today's episode, we'll be talking about mental health issues, the perception of mental health issues in Nigeria, and the way forward with these issues. I am Angiatin Justina, your host, and I always do this with these two special people, beside me, my co-host. And do you want to go first, or you want to let this one go?
What? The social professionals go on.
Really?
He's already vibing.
Really?
Just take it.
You need to take notes from him sometimes.
Just take it.
Okay.
Just take it.
Fine. She's giving it to you, not like you took it from
And
her.
a platter of gold.
Okay,
She's
thank
giving
you.
it to you.
Hey, welcome people. This is Fredrick, your social prefect.
Oh, that's all?
Nah.
Yeah.
And I am Nafisat Okunene Abdurrahman.
You know what? It's fine. And to talk about this topic, she's quiet, she's mute, she's an authority. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, this is Dr. Funke Olofin. She is a lecturer and a member of the Nigerian Psychological Association and the Nigerian Clinical Association as well, and so many more affiliations. In fact, that is why I say you're an authority on this topic, and we're so glad to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay. So, like I was saying, mental health issues in Nigeria, it's actually something that we don't pay as much attention to, but we need to. And I feel like historically, according to research, when you go back to psychiatry, and there was this particular article that was released, they said that psychiatrists back then didn't think that Africans could suffer depression because we were not capable of, critical thinking and all that. And some of the ways that we handled some of our issues were all our traditional healers or
Religious.
native doctor, religion. Does that still apply today?
Oh, well, to a certain extent. The historical perspective does not just apply only to Nigeria. We still find traces or bits of that even out of Nigeria. But very recently, regards to the events of COVID, so much of that has been changed.
So before we go in depth into this topic, there's this argument we're having like behind the scenes. We're trying to figure out the differences between these three terms: psychologist, psychiatrist, and therapist. Are they the same, or are they three different,
Of course,
people?
yeah, three different people.
Okay, can you outline like the
Wow.
differences?
Okay,
of what it
yeah,
takes?
three different independent profession. For the psychologist, they're specialize in mental health and more of social sciences, while the psychiatrist, they are medical doctors, they are certified medical doctors that eventually branch out. And for the psychotherapist,
Yes.
they can tag along with the psychologist. They add a bit of counseling, and this is linked closely to those people who specialize in area of clinical psychology that actually want to go in depth. It looks like is independent, but it also goes round, because in the process of doing psychiatry, you also need to prefer some of these services somehow. It tags along, almost like a shoemaker and a shoe cobbler, and which other profession goes alongside. You just have them. So from time to time, you make referrals. A psychologist refer a patient to a psychiatrist, and a psychiatrist refer to a psychologist.
Psychotherapist.
Yes, and for further evaluations, you can also refer to the psychotherapist. They are different, but they have link.
Also, they work hand in hand.
They do.
Okay, let me quickly ask a question. Is it possible for someone with some form of mental health to just see a psychologist and be okay without necessarily going to see a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist?
Okay, so talking about psychology, you have to have like an independent, you have to work on the process. You cannot just be a psychologist. You have to go ahead, you have to have extra knowledge, you have to be certified, you have to add more to that your basic foundation.
Okay.
You cannot prefer solution just as a psychologist. You would be regarded as working like an armchair expert. You're not certified. So you need to actually go further in areas like medical psychology, health psychology, or clinical psychology, even the counseling psychology, for you to be able to prefer solution. You cannot just be a general psychologist and say you're going to help people. These are in-depth issues that concerns mental health, total well-being. How can you're not a certified expert if you go ahead and do that? Of course, there are sanctions for that. You won't dare, except you're working from your backyard.
And if you get caught, because a lot of people might be getting some ideas, please.
Exactly.
No psychology in your backyard. This one is so into what you're saying that, you know, his hand is on his chin.
He's
and
learning a lot.
No,
You're learning a lot. It's
This topic particularly means like one of the most important things to me as a human being. That's just the truth. And I think over the course of the conversation you kind of find out there are a lot of things that we would find out where we are in this part of the world concerning mental health that would kind of like have you staggering a bit, especially if you bring up the numbers, the stats. There's certain things that even in the research building up to this, I mean, some things we knew just by how we interact with people, but like seeing the numbers is actually, it can be quite scary. And
it is actually.
For me personally, on a personal note, knowing that at some point in my life, there was this like dip for me, like, don't want to say I was depressed, but like it was a point where I just was in my head, living in my head, and kind of like all the tools I used to kind of like pull myself out, and now bringing the knowledge of who I am today and bringing out this version of me and bringing out like how self-aware I am now. Like that's why this topic is massive. And the more I talk to people and you find out that it's such a big part of people's lives that we've undermined for so long.
Yeah. And you're currently on that, because that was the next thing I was going into, you know, the perception, the general perception of mental health in, you know, Nigeria. And do we even pay attention to it, first of all?
Right. So, you know, and when I spoke about stats, now let's just start. So in the world, 26% of countries do not have any form of mental health legislation at all.
Wow.
Right? 26%. Okay. Doesn't sound horrendous. When you come to Africa, that number skyrockets to 46%.
Wow.
In Africa, there are 1 to 4 mental health workers for every 100,000 people, versus the world average of 9 to 10 per 100,000 people. All right, let's now come back to home. In Africa, Nigeria has the highest caseload of depression, and we're ranked 15th in the world. Now, all these stats are from the World Health Organization. And in Nigeria also, the stat is 1 in 4 people have or has some form of mental illness, right?
So, Fredrick, are you saying somebody out of the forest has
Don't do that.
I'm just asking. I need to be clear.
That's statistically, right? So
there's a possibility.
There's a possibility.
That is actually a religious number. So this is a number.
It's a number. I mean, so it's just to help people understand. So 1 in 4 people have some form of a mental illness. Now, in a population where we're definitely over 200 million from different like institutions like the World Bank, they've declared us like over maybe 200 million, but 200 max. If you use those numbers, we are roughly about 50 million people walking around with some form of mental health issues. and there are only 8 neuropsychiatric hospitals, federal ones in the country, about 8. And
Don't
I
worry,
think,
we have someone here that could
oh yeah, she'll clear that up.
confirm that.
But I think we have, just because now there's a difference between obviously psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists.
Yeah.
But I think we have only about 150 psychiatrists, like on record, maybe just about 150. It's not like for 50 million people with potential issues.
450.
50 million
50
people.
million.
50 million people. But those are the stats, just to help you see how there's so much room for what we can offer in that department. So clearly it's not taken seriously. If you only have 8 neuropsychiatric clinics, and then there are over 50 million people who have these issues or could have these issues, what is the attention being paid to it? There's clearly there's not enough standalone legislation to navigate the area, to help people with this area. We're in a place where talking about mental health issues gets met with the solution of go to your religious leader, or it's a thing of also just engage more in your religion. And culturally, people are like, you know what, there's really no place in this. If you have some form, they tend to ostracize you in a way, because they feel like there's something wrong with you. And just to kind of like go further in this, when you talk about some form of like mental health related topics, not even issues, people tend to look at it as a breakaway from sanity. If like I said, I was mentioning before the show, and I said it 100%. At some point in my life, I just thought, you know what, therapy will be good. Like, just go in. Like, there's nothing wrong with therapy. Doesn't mean you're crazy. Doesn't mean there's something wrong. But in that situation, it might be something you need. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if I said that to a group of people, the first thing they're going to say to me is, "I'm what Fredo, it'd be like say you don't mad at me." But it's such a thing. That's it. People already think therapy means like there's some break from like the norm, like for you as a human being. And that's just you talking about therapy, not even talking about some form of like mental illness. So those are the kind of things that have formed the perception of like what we have like now. And it's great that you're here with us, Ma. So I mean, you can shed more light on those stats, all those things that have come in, or even the perception that we have.
Okay, so thank you very much, Fredrick. Talking about mental health, I personally agree that trends are evolving. He made mention of any one of us here having, I would say, even all of us here. There's a possibility. Okay, so there are a list of possible mental health issues, which somehow we fall under that spectrum. You have impulse control disorder, you have personality, you have depression, which people talk so much about, you have personality disorder, you have phobia, and the list continues. Okay, talking about impulse control disorder, ICD, very recently we all have phones here. We also have smartphones. Away from that, what else do we have that we can use to get to the net? Your laptop. Okay, so we all have that. So like 6-7 years ago, the DSM, which is Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Disorder, actually had it that there's a disorder which you have all of that cluster: smartphone, internet disorder, a bit of gambling addiction, gaming fell under. Can you find anywhere you fall? Somehow.
Smartphones.
Makes sense.
Yeah, smartphones.
So
makes sense.
Talking about that, if it persists and you're unable to bounce back to normal functionality, are you aware that you need help?
Yeah.
So your inability to bounce back to proper functionality makes you a patient. or a susceptible patient in quotes. Okay, so for some people, they have general life issues and they sink in. Earlier, he said that while growing up, he had his own issues he was dealing with. He was living within his head and he was able to pull himself out. However, he did it, I'm not too sure. But humanly speaking, once you're sinking, you also have that tendency to go back to normal functionality. People's inability to get that optimal functionality like the way they were before makes them to be a client. And if they happen to be a patient rather, they actually need help. Are you with me?
Yes.
So they will indirectly also fall under needing help, a mental specialist help. Are you with me?
Yes.
So over time, I am not too sure of how the trend will be because human behavior evolves.
Yes.
From time to time, we actually need different type of help or psychological help. We also have issues like sexual preference, which we have traditional parents raising serious eyebrow at, like, are you crazy? Have you gone crazy? Are you okay? And you have contemporary
Parents.
youths or parents saying they actually don't really mind, or my son or daughter actually opened up that she has the opposite preference, and they'll come out and post it and give kudos and say, I am there to support you, I'm there to support you. For some persons, they'll look at it like you actually need mental health to intervene in that issue. Well, others will look at it as part of life. Just go on. That is how you feel. Your inability to even open up to decide what you want makes you to get sick. And your ability to open up to say this is how you want to be or this is how you want to continue makes you to function optimally. So it varies in between. We also have the eating disorder. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, which we have the anorexia and bulimia. We also have obesity. From time to time they change and put something else into the DSM, the upgrade rather. And we have the binge eating and pica, which falls under that spectrum. We have those who feel that they need to look slim to be accepted
in the
socially.
society.
Social prefect, what do you have to say about
It's true because like
we have those that would say I'm comfortable in my body, I'm big, bold and beautiful. I don't mind that. And we have some people who decide to push or amplify that behavior, making people feel comfortable in their body, and they allow them to model. You see those models?
Absolutely.
Yes, that's the ideal thing. Their inability to be able to come out and showcase themselves might make them to feel not accomplished, might make them to feel less of themselves, might make them to even fall ill and need mental health help. So all of these are changing over time, possibly because of globalization, more awareness, more exposure, more information from the internet. So it has changed compared to what it was, but we are not yet there. We are not yet there.
So I actually have a follow-up question before we move on. You mentioned a couple of disorders and possible issues that a couple of people are walking around with and they have no idea about. Are there ways, tests you can take to know if your case is at that particular point, or if you're just going about your daily activities?
Obviously, there are standardized instruments used to measure all of that, but you cannot access this test with ease. You can also not get it on the street, only when you go for professional help. And your symptoms suggest possible disorder before such test would be administered to you. You don't just walk into the hospital and get that. You have to go in that line, go and see a certified psychologist or a psychiatric doctor, which might make referral, or a psychotherapist, certified psychotherapist.
Yeah. Okay.
So, having
yeah.
said all this, I think there's a need for us to look at those factors that has influenced the perspective from which Africans look at mental health. I mean, we know that before now, just like Fredrick said, even to some level now, if you still talk to some of your friends or your family, if you just tell them, I'm feeling this way, there's this, you just say you do okay. You just say they sick forehead and all those things. So, and doing research, we found out that there is social-cultural factor / the personal experience. We have the poor media coverage. We have lack of funds, lack of knowledge, and lack of knowledge of appropriate intervention. So now, looking at it from the social-cultural factor / the personal experience, it's a situation where in the society, people look at maybe whatever you've done or whatever you're going through, and you can't see some of your actions from the religious or cultural aspect. Like if your child just wakes up and start doing the abnormal, something he's not used to, he or she is not used to doing before, the first thing African parents do is take you to the church or the mosque. Like, it's just like these people don't even know that it goes beyond that. It's not a matter of spirituality now, it's in the head. So we have this thing of just pray to God. You'll be fine. Just talk to God. God will answer you. God is here. And all those things. And the personal experience is, this is a situation where you've grown in a society where you see how people with one form of mental issue or the other have been stigmatized. Like, people don't want to associate with them. And even our religious center have a huge role to play when it comes to stigmatization. Because a mother brings his boy or girl child to you and tells you, pastor or imam, this lady or this boy has been behaving this way for a while. They don't even talk to them, and the next thing is on Sunday or Friday, they bring you in front of the congregation and start praying for you. So before you know it, people don't want to associate with you because they feel you have stigmatization. Some people will say it's Ogbanje, some people will say it's gene, and what have you. So these things don't make people to come out to actually say this is a problem they are going through, because nobody wants to associate with you in the society. Nobody wants to even talk about you. And whosoever wants to try to, you find people dissuading them. That one really mad. You know, say they prepare for church on Sunday. You know, say imam bring up all those things. And now we have poor media coverage. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Before now, Nollywood movies, if you have any mental issue, you are on chains. The first thing is they put you in chains. Nobody wants to be put in chains, no matter what they are going through. That's not a sign of love. It's not a sign of affection. It's like you're telling this person, okay, you're no longer in our class. This is where you belong. So, and then another thing they do is when somebody has mental issues or even some kind of break from being normal, they show this person on the street with children running after them, with all sorts of lack of love and everything. So nobody, personally, seeing all those situations, if I was not educated and socialized to some point, would not want to speak out if I have a problem like that. And then we have lack of funds. Like, mental health care in Nigeria is the third most expensive. It's not something you can get in your locality. There are some.
We need her to actually confirm that.
Yeah, she will. But I also did my research, and I'm sure she's going to talk about that. Like, I was about to tell her, ma, true or false?
To some extent.
To some extent.
To a large extent.
To a large extent.
So it's very, very
So
true.
yes, it's true. I did my research. I did my homework. So you get, so now people will tell you, I don't have money to take my child to the hospital. Talk more of, okay, you say now that you have to see these 3 specialists before you can be verified well again. Now you're talking about going to see a psychology, a psychiatrist, and a psychotherapist. And imagine how much each specialist,
And possibly a social worker, depending on what
there's more.
mental
There is
more.
Wow.
issue
That's
you
it.
fall under.
so you say it.
So how does someone thrive with all these issues? Like, how can people actually get the help they need amidst all these challenges that she mentioned?
Okay, so talking from my own personal experience, just those that are considered to be financially stable can pull through somehow. Some persons start probably with diagnosis when they are unaware of what the issue is, and they take the child for consultation to a specialist. And after diagnosis, eventually they'll fly the person out and manage the person there. For some regular salary earners,
You mean, and those
they
below the
just
poverty line.
okay, they just cope by the day. They just survive. And there are times that the patient is stabilized enough to be integrated into the society. If a relapse happens, they take the person back, at times with fee, with no fee, with long debts, and eventually, yes, they are thrown out of the rehab center or the mental health. Yes, so I am aware of such possible process happening with very regular Nigerians.
That's actually a very big issue, because what is actually shows is that if you're not privileged, or if you can't afford it, this is actually
There's
the
no
issue.
care for you.
And let's even talk about the way we have private hospitals and national hospitals, public hospitals. These public hospitals, do they have departments of? Because I don't think.
Okay, so this is it. They are actually expected to have that integrated into their own system, but not all of them have that ability or financial strength to hire a course-certified psychiatrist. So somehow they work there, but not fully. They try to look for where they will attach themselves to, and they function there, but not completely. Away from that, you don't have, will I say, verified words where you can keep in-house mental related patients. We just have that space where you have people with other medical ailments away from mental health. You actually see that for core mental health hospitals, they are independent, they are away from the regular, and because of the fear of people acting in a bizarre situation, people acting really funny, not knowing that you have some people who can be sane. They just have like let's say a bit of emotional issues happening around, but they need help. They are not those ones that you feel that they'll go completely naked or they'll pull your hair. We have people who have other issues, maybe coping from addiction. So we don't have that happening in regular hospitals. So we have some private institutions seeing that there's a gap, there's a lack there. So they are trying to start up, or they have their own rehab centers, but they also can't afford so many things that are involved in that process. Maybe license, maybe a certified nurse, a certified psychiatric nurse, a certified resident doctor on ground, and all of that requirement. So they just manage their patients, manage them in-house till the patient is able to stabilize or decide to run away or goes down beyond the way the patient came. So they are still managing the system. We are not yet there, I'll still repeat, but we are trying to get there.
I know you mentioned that, they might not be able to afford it, but just the way I said, like public and private, the public is owned by the government. They're the ones to like establish departments and fund this medical this mental health departments in each of these public hospitals, because that's the way to go for most people when it comes to even physical health. You cannot afford private. If you cannot afford private, you definitely have to go to the public
hospitals, the
long waits and all that, but you still get to see a doctor. Why isn't this the case for mental health? Why don't we have those in why don't we have departments in public hospitals just like that?
Oh, well, it depends on the public hospital.
Okay.
I'm aware of that in National Hospital.
Okay.
But it is not functioning optimally. They refer to other hospitals, and I want to say that inability to be able to actualize or achieve that optimal functionality is what drives patients to traditional homes or drives them back to the church. If you're not getting your desired outcome from the hospital, you look for the next best
solution,
alternative, and you seek help there.
Well, that's actually... So it's not actually the fault of people who go to church, from what we hear.
No, it's not.
For now, it's not, but before it was.
No, I think her point is, and it's really clear, like, obviously people who have tried, so them doing that, it's not like that was the default setting.
Yes.
So it's not like you just woke up and like, know about this, or go there. No, they actually tried, and then you can see if they tried and then they're helpless because of the economic situation, then you can understand, like, okay, now it's like, about God, I'm big. Like,
you're literally
the last line, like, oh God, I'm big.
So you can't help me.
I totally get it, but it doesn't change the fact that more people would try to direct you first to religious leaders as opposed to actually getting help.
Okay, so for the very few who are aware that they actually need call medical intervention, when they get there, you hear stuff like, we can admit, but we don't have a bed. We can admit, but we don't have a stationed psychiatric nurse. We can admit, but you hear the but, knowing that you're not getting
what you want,
that complete package. So won't you just seek for where you get your complete package, which you don't always get such places? We say we can admit, but we can only do outpatient. We can't do inpatient. Or can the person just come over for medication, for prescription, for a bit of counseling, and you feel that the person needs complete or total help from the hospital or medical help, let the person be stationed there at that moment, and you hear all of that. Why don't you take the person home? You can be bringing the person every other day, maybe weekly or monthly, or when you realize that there's an attack and you be like, there's always an attack. How do you want me to cope? How do you want me to cope? So you always hear people traveling far, searching for
help.
People calling, please, you have an idea? I heard there's one place in Edo State, there's one place in Jos. Oh, there's almost nowhere in Abuja. I've tried, but I can't get anywhere I feel that I can get the full package. Please, can you share with me? Can you help me out? You know that there's a large gap in what is expected, like treatment process, compared to, should I make comparison? Compared to what is actually expected.
Okay, that's the best comparison, I think, because if you try,
Yeah, we're gonna get into trouble. So, Fredrick just he said we have only 8 neuropsychiatric hospitals
private,
in Nigeria.
Yeah,
I
8
mean,
federal.
Federal.
No, federal ones, 8 federal ones, yeah.
In Nigeria. And you've also said that even the National Hospital here in Abuja has limited human and equipment resource, like human and material resource. Now, and to worsen the whole case, it's a ratio of 1 doctor to about 700,000 mentally ill persons. And we also have it that 9 out of 10 doctors always want to leave the country. What do you think government is doing about this whole thing? How would you say they have tried to help the situation when it comes to mental health issues in Nigeria?
How would I say?
Yes.
That is large. Okay, so talking about government trying to help. For a long while, they've been passing mental health bill, and you always hear that it has passed this phase, is on this phase, is getting there. We are still crawling. We are not yet there. We are still crawling, and this is wellness. This is mental health wellness. We cannot be stationed. As far as I'm concerned, since they are unable to get to the desired point where they will say, okay, this is an active bill set for this purpose, these are the act and all of that, we are still crawling. We are crawling in that regards. And this possibly could be the reasons for doctors checking out of the country for a very organized system, because since we are crawling, there are no records printed in black and white, so you don't know what to do. You don't know if there are sanctions. You don't know if they are right or wrong per se. And there are no guiding principles to help people in this field to be able to get other benefits. So we are still crawling in it, and the earlier we wake up that this looks like the big deal now, the better for us. I read somewhere that very, very soon the regular physical ailment pattern would eventually evolve. People would have an idea of how to manage whatever ailment, and mental health will be the in thing. You actually need more resources, more infrastructures, more human hands to be able to help people out, because now once you have headache, you can go and
the drugs to take.
Once you feel somehow, you know what to do. Once you check possible symptoms. But for mental health, we have this thing known as culture-bound syndrome, meaning that for mental health issues, signs and symptoms are a bit changed from place to place. So we have regular, it might have you might be aware that this person is actually not behaving normal, and you can trace that to where he's coming from. That is why it's been labeled as culture bound, because you don't have it across, but you have it in that area. Okay, so for people from Asia, they have Amok, they have Kozak.
What's that?
Is a form of mental illness where people will just run across the required level where they're expected to stop. Yes.
Okay.
So
I'm
just like
so-
running amok.
I don't know. Can you try to break that down?
Yes.
Okay,
I think we're
that
lost
is
here.
what. Sorry, I'm digressing a bit.
No, it's okay.
I was talking about culture bound syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So for specific places, there are specific issues that are not considered to be the regular.
Okay.
So for different places, there are different things that you say, oh, this happens here, but it is not
Doesn't
a
really happen.
unified.
Yeah. Okay, now I
Just
get it.
even
Now I get it.
within Nigeria,
Mhm.
we have specific mental illnesses that are, how will I say, specific to
Origin.
no different
Political zones.
different cultural backgrounds
Okay.
based on tribes.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Cross River State.
Okay,
Obudu.
do you have anything that you think that it's peculiar? Yes, that's the word, to your own people that is not common?
Well, I really.
Okay,
Can't
so
tell.
it happens. It happens. Why is this so? I will still make reference to the DSM. This is a unifying book where psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists flip through and look for latest diagnosis. Also look for classification, look for interpretation, look for possible symptoms based on different ailments under mental health, and they check how it works and possible signs. Okay, for research committee, they are expected to send all of these, labeling male and female, yes, in that range, labeling possible age, labeling gender, which I mentioned. What else? Across all of these demographics and sending it to them, but maybe we don't have specialists in that area, so they have this inability of sending all of this data to the American Psychological Association to be able to put it into the DSM. The DSM is like, I always make reference to it, calling it psychological mini Bible, because we always go and flip through and check what is new, how does this work, is it this, does all of this cluster of signs and symptoms, does it mean that this person is suffering from
this particular thing?
This? Okay, so that inability of picking all these signs and symptoms and sending it to a research expert for them putting it there makes it culture bound. Away from that, there are specific issues that are specific to certain religions. I also read this one where I think is also among the Asian people, where they said that for some reasons, certain men will feel that their genitals begin to shrink. It's just a feeling, and they continue to act funny because of that feeling. It happens also in Asia. Do we have that here? Have you heard of that?
Well, we have a
I
record-keeping
haven't.
problem generally
Okay.
in this side.
Okay.
So,
So you see, we have cluster of problems.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, and talking about background and talking about culture and everything, I think I'm trying to put this towards, like, let's say parenting, and how it can affect the someone's
Mental
perception
wellness.
and even their well-being and how they interact, like with this issue of mental health. So let me start by going like this. Like, in my experience, right, growing up, I was allowed to express myself in certain ways, right? So, which was good, because then I was able to be very natural with my parents in a way. I mean, there's a boundary, they know,
of course,
but I was allowed to express myself in a certain way. And then I found out that it's okay to kind of like admit certain things, like growing up, when you feel odd, when you feel down, when you feel, so that way of growing up, kind of made me see the topic and go, okay, if something really is going on with me, like, and I'm feeling kind of lonely, I can say it. I can definitely say. I'll give like of just a few examples. I remember when I first went, when I first got to uni when I was in England, and then there was this moment where I felt super. Yeah, this was the moment I'm talking about, the dip at some point. So I felt super alone. It was a new place, new culture. Like I was 17 at the time and I was living on my own. So there were a lot of things I was just like coping with, and it just didn't feel right. I didn't like, just kind of had like a lost sense of like what everything was. And every day just felt like it was super long. I hadn't opened up to people, and you know what? It was easy. And at some point I just went, you know what? First of all, I went up to my mom, to my parents. I was like, look, I'm lonely here. I'm not going to lie to you. I am going through it here. And then it was being able to say things like that, you know, and that has affected even how I look at the topic. If you feel a certain kind of way, you can express to people that, you know what, look, I'm feeling like this. This may not be the best time. So just take that bit of a gap and, you know, have conversations with people. So, and I've noticed that, it's not the same. Not everybody has the same experience. Not everybody can say that. So I'm heading towards this point where does parenting have a sense or a what's the word I'm looking?
An influence?
Does influence, yeah. Does parenting have an influence on how an individual deals with certain aspects of like mental health? Because it's a full-on thing. We know that African parenting, I mean, it's quite different, you know, from what we see. And then it's a theme where a lot of people go, okay, I feel the kind of way. You go to their parents and they're like, oh, go away. Or like, this is the popular, this is the popular one. This is the popular one. I'm sad. What are you sad for? You have everything you could need. Why are you sad?
No, have you ever heard, I'm feeling down, and they're like, why would you feel down when you've been lying down here?
With your phone.
Yeah,
With your phone. You've been in your room since.
It's so mental. And those are the kind of things, like, you know, with parenting and just hearing those kind of notions, like, how can your response be, I'm sad, you're pressing for why? Or I'm like, people just go. Also, I think we'll get to that point, but this one first. But, you know, people also respond, like parents go, oh, I'm sad. And if your parents are well off, they say, you have everything. Yeah, going to a good school. Yeah. And then you feel sad. And they're like, why? Why should you? Yeah. So it's the thing. Does parenting style have an influence on, you know, just how an individual perceives mental health and how, you know, they associate with the topic?
Okay, well, to a very large extent. Okay, let me digress a bit. For sociologists, they'll say the first agent of socialization is what?
The family.
Good, family. Which you have your parents. And there we take so much solace, we build confidence, we even grow into independence. And if they are unable to set the track well for you, put it well for you to be able to ride properly on, it has a gross effect on your remaining socially built lifestyle. For some of us, or somehow, or for people in general, we still make reference to our past, how we were being shaped.
Yes.
It's like a molding process. So if your parents were unable to help to shape you well because of their lack of information, it has effects on your gross behavior once you're growing and you get to adulthood. For some parents, they have refused to be like they call traditional parents of, you don't need to express yourself, you don't need to feel any way, I am your parent, I provide everything, I have tried to satisfy you in my own way. You should be appreciative, you don't have any right to complain or feel any kind of way. For such children, they continue to sink sink. For such children who feel that there are no alternative lifestyle or approach towards life, they continue to sink. And that is how you just suddenly hear of several cases of suicides, which could be linked to that. And say, he's a jolly good fellow.
And this
he's a
is
smart.
that's interesting because Nigeria actually has one of the highest rates
Oh,
of suicide. We do have one of the highest rates of suicide. It is, I think, in Africa we are in the top 5. I think top 5, and this is putting it mildly because I don't want to be like off the mark so much.
Yeah.
But I'll just say in Africa we're definitely in the top 5, and in the world we occupy a position that is still staggering.
Okay, so talking about suicide, I would wish to share that up to date is still considered as a taboo. So suddenly you just hear that one young chap died.
Yeah.
And if you're a bit nosy or you have somebody who is nosy around you, say, that guy, he took sniper, or I mean, she killed herself. Or so people really don't just come out to say that their children or their relative died from that. But if you're close to them, or you're even a medical practitioner or a paramedical professional, you'd have that statistics handy to know that you have high amounts of youths dying from suicide.
That, you know what? That this is just a plea to young people everywhere, and wherever the case may be. I personally implore you, do not think it is out of place to want to get help. Don't care about what people say. And it's hard, and it truly is, living in your head and coming up with the ifs, the maybes, the buts, what would they think? At some point, the only person that you would have to confront on a day-to-day basis is yourself. And if you have conflict within yourself, I guarantee you everything around you would be chaotic. And it's not for them. It's never going to be for them. This decision is for you. Don't speak to someone about it. Start with a friend. And I know that's the scariest bit, to start with a friend, but it's scary for me because the stats are there. It's scary for me because I speak to quite a number of people who tell me how hard it is mentally. It's scary to see a person like you telling you they're considering killing themselves. I don't think your life can ever be the same if somebody really has told you, I am thinking of killing myself. Your life can't be the same. It's the scariest thing because you're looking there and you're thinking, your words at that point could be the line between life and death. It's the scariest thing. So please, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not. I've been in a point where I haven't been okay. I've had to talk to people. It's fine. It's okay to lean on people once in a while. You need that as a human being. We're talking about mental health, but I know we have someone who's on the topic, an expert on the topic, but I'm telling you from a human perspective, like, I'm trying to be as human as I can be and not give you some doctored facts or doctored anything. But truly, if anything, talk to someone. And at some point, I'm sure we'll share, like, maybe in the description, like lines you can call, things you can do, people if you need it. Like, these are very important things. I know it's easier said than done when people say don't worry, but honestly, like, you need to love yourself first before you can even be able to show love to other people. And that's like basically just try. I think you have nothing to lose. Trust me. You really don't.
On a lighter note, that is our social prefect doing his social duties.
Yes.
Okay.
And doing it well.
Yeah,
Really
doing
well.
it well. Like, wow. Come on.
It's fine.
Don't do that.
I'm shy.
Thank you. Oh, now he has gone back to that.
Yeah, he has gone back to him.
Okay, yeah. So we were all casually mentioning one of the problems, which is the stigma. You mentioned it as well. If you're probably a relative to someone who has a mental health issue, or if you admit that you have a mental health issues, like you were saying, like you need to speak to somebody, but there's this stigma, it is still there, even some myths as well.
Yeah.
We've mentioned it casually as well, where, oh, you have mental health issues, you're probably mad, or you don't need to take care of your mental health until you actually have an issue, or there's so many pastors, or you're possessed by an evil spirit, that's why you're behaving in a funny way. How have you handled, because I know you have a PhD in clinical psychology, and this is something that you have experienced people saying. How do you handle things like this?
Okay, so adding to your list of mentioned myths, I would also like to add that one I always hear, that for guys, they are not expected to fall under depression or to agree that they are suffering from this issue. It's a girly thing.
You are a man.
Man up.
Thank you so much for this.
are not supposed to fall under this diagnosis, or you're not supposed to even say it. How do you know?
Yes.
Or saying that if you say you're depressed, or just labeling it all under the cluster of sadness, you get out of it.
Yes.
It's just
Come, let's go out.
Man, you're not supposed to be weak.
It's just
Men don't cry.
Men don't
oh
cry.
yes,
Men don't cry.
yes. It's just part of it all. We are Africans. That thing now in voting now is for the white people.
White people sickness. That's what it's called.
These children, they watch so many things. Why do depression? What is that? You're sad. Why?
God forbid that thing. You can never be depressed.
We don't have that in our lineage. It's not our family thing.
Yes.
You watch too many films. So why are you sounding like that? Okay, so it happens from time to time. I still repeat, we have to agree to the fact that human behavior is evolving. Likewise, human health behavior and diagnosis. We should face it that since it's evolving, we have these issues which different gender also fall under this spectrum, and they need help. They need medical help. We should stop brushing it away, or saying that it can't happen to you. What's worrying you? Your parents are okay. You have TV, you have ACs, you have. Say okay. Now body they sweet them now. What
do you lack?
Or the parents also sounding like the parents who are supposed to be the first unlicensed psychiatrist to give help to their children, will just brush them away, and children will go ahead and get help from unlicensed people who would, or who might not even show pure or genuine empathy, and they would eventually get into trouble or get into deeper trouble. Parents should be aware that all of this has changed. It is possible. It can happen. It's no longer an Oyinbo sickness in quote. It's no longer this child wants to add to
sickness.
His vocab or her vocab. It's no longer a thing of are you a woman? Why will you say you're depressed? Is far away from that. Any of this can happen. I made a list of possible mental disorders which male and female actually suffers of both. You might need help. You might want to see how you manage your life, how you'll be able to function optimally, how you'll be able to fit completely into the system and just make a good meaning out of your life without people making you to feel bad, or without you feeling bad on your own. We have our parents, our families, to be able to show love, show empathy, and help that person pull through. Because even away from the hospitals, mental health hospitals, those parents, those patients will still get back home. They'll still be integrated back home. So parents are expected to be enlightened enough to be able to say, oh, I'm aware of possible signs or symptoms of such ailments, and it seems my daughter, child, or relative is suffering from this. How can I, as a parent, as a caregiver, manage to help this child to pull through, even though not fully functional, but to be able to live every day or day by day without opting out for suicide or other forms of addiction or
This coping
Or what
mechanisms
have
that
you.
are just
other unprofessional
terrible.
coping mechanisms.
Okay, so talking about enlightenment, we have a lot of people that are unsocialized, like they still live in deep rural areas, and they may not be fortunate as others to hear us or watch us having this discussion. How do you think people like that should be reached, enlightened, and educated about mental health in the society?
Okay, so we actually have some independent people. Most times is a volunteer type of approach. We have some NGOs who are willing to go down for sensitization, for sharing knowledge and exchanging approach of how it works over there and how they can help, or best practices. We have them. We have good amounts of NGOs that are handy. They came on board, or they were fully established, especially after the COVID thing.
Yeah.
They came because of mental health. COVID gave birth to all of these, or most
The
of
awareness.
this awareness, because it was getting to the peak around that time. People complaining, youths and parents, husband and wife,
2019.
inability to achieve optimal functionality, you locked at home, you're unable to see sun, you just tired of staying with.
That was a tiring time.
Yes, it
honestly. I'm not going
Was
to
it
lie.
for you?
Well, the whole day, because before then, you had this routine where you go out, you meet other people, but then being in the same space, arguments you normally wouldn't have were just coming out of nowhere. You were just beginning to notice, oh, really? Is this what you've been doing? Because you're staying the whole day, 24 hours in the same space. So it actually felt stuffy at a particular time. So it was hard. I understand when anybody would say, oh, that was hard for me, because it was actually hard for me. I'm not going to lie.
But before COVID, I don't know, between 2017 and 2019, that is even before COVID, there was a rise on the rate of suicide and depression report. And most people say it's because things were becoming hard in Nigeria economically, there is no money, and so many things were happening. Would you really say that poverty has an influence on the level of depression in a society?
Or the other way around.
Or the other way around?
Oh, well, to a large extent, if you're unable to finance your daily needs, you'd eventually, or you automatically get depressed. You automatically fall into depression. If you're unable to get your daily needs like
food, housing,
even
water,
transportation,
school,
all that.
Even lightning. Have you ever felt some kind of way when they take light for long? You don't feel
uneasy
comfortable.
and down.
So you can imagine some people staying in the dark, living in the dark for so long. Their only light is the daylight, the sunlight, and they go back
to sleep,
to trenches. They go back there.
She said trenches, which is great.
I'm going to twist that question now. Now, my first question was, does poverty have an influence on the level of depression in the society? Now, do you, as an authority in this field now, I want to know, or we want to know, I'm sure other people too want to know, do you think some form of mental illness has an influence on the level of poverty in the society?
Some form of
Mental illness
has what?
has an influence on the level, the rate, or the growth of poverty in the society.
Oh, take that again.
Okay, let me give you an example. Yeah, we are three here. You are the authority, so I'm not putting you in the example. Myself, Fredrick, and Tina, and we're doing okay. And do you think that all of a sudden I begin to be depressed or have some form of mental illness? Do you think it can affect my level of
Performance on the job,
when it comes to
gain wealth.
economic or financial stability?
You're not thinking well now. You said mental illness. It means you're sick now. Your pattern of life will be altered. It's like a direct thing now.
So it's definite.
So it's definitely.
Yes.
So if you're sick, it affects everything and anything that has to do with you.
Yeah, there are a whole lot of mental health issues. Talking about spending or sickness, we have this disorder, compulsive spending.
Yeah.
Also known as spending spree. That inability to hold your finance. You just want to spend. You're buying things that you don't need. It's also another form of mental illness. You're sick. Why can't you keep your money or direct it towards something you actually need? Your inability to be able to focus, directing your finances to what you need is an issue now.
Fredrick, do you have compulsive spending?
No, I'm looking at Tina actually.
People that do it.
I'm looking at
Do you
Tina
even have that?
well, you know.
I actually said earlier that we all might fall under one of these spectrum.
Yeah.
It has been recorded that you have large amount of females fall under this. Do you also have that as an issue? At times, do you? Or
Sometimes
every
it just
time?
look like you need it.
Yes. Okay, like you need it until when you get back home and you'll be like,
Why buy this
How
thing?
do I use it?
I love how
Why
she
did I
says
buy
she's
this
just like,
thing?
no, it happens. It happened to me sometimes. Like I just go like, okay, Fredrick, like, did you actually need it? Did you need it, Fredrick?
You know what?
So we all have that here.
It's
Yeah, that
like, you know what,
sometimes.
what she acknowledges that all of us could have some form of-
Yeah.
So we're talking about the way forward. How do we move forward over all these issues? What are some of the solutions you would prefer to maybe the governments, to individuals, about how we can generally solve our mental health issues?
okay, so I would look at it in this way. Talking about the government, especially here in Nigeria, I would be grateful if they are able to fast track all bills sent, all mental health bills sent, so that practitioners would know that there's a defined track to run on. They would also know that it involves licensing and all of those procedures and processes for you to be certified as okay to work on humans, not people going to seek help from spiritual healers, from traditional healers or pastors. And for individuals, I would repeat what he said. It's okay to say you're not okay. It's okay to say that you don't feel good. It's okay for you as a guy to say you're
Depressed.
or you're sad. It's also okay for you to cry. It's just that when it's done excessively, society might begin to frown at it. Society, please allow men to
please
feel
talk
okay.
Expressive.
Society,
Yes,
please.
it
Anyone
is
of them.
actually okay to feel free to express yourself. It's when it's done in an exaggerated way that society are also allowed to frown at
it.
this person. So a mental health issue is still trying to gain ground. But I know that subsequently we will be more aware of what is expected, what it entails, and how we can help people who are suffering from, or people who could suffer from this issue, how we can help them not to get deep down to that intensive state of depression, which is acute phase of depression, which might eventually lead to suicide.
Thank you so much. We're so fortunate to have you come on. If it was just the three of us, probably we would have been banter. But it's good to have a specialized person here. Just to close this off, there's a tradition. We need to know where you're from and the languages you speak.
Okay.
This is easy, and we're promoting the African culture, we're promoting Nigerian culture. So that's what we do.
I am Olofin Funke. I am from Ekiti State. I speak, or we speak, Yoruba.
Can you say something, anything, maybe mental health related also
to the audience?
Somebody watching right now or listening.
In Yoruba.
In
Yoruba. That laugh says it all.
That laugh. No, see, this is a safe space. If you're not so.
Oh no, please not now.
Okay.
So
I just like to let you know that in case you're looking to bump up your Yoruba or any other
African language,
but I don't catch myself doing it openly. Probably amongst family members. I realized that I don't flow well with outsiders.
But it's beautiful.
I thought we were a family. I'm hot.
There's some languages that you hear that you're drawn to, like want to know.
I want to know.
And that's what we're
more.
pushing, like for people to want to learn and go into these languages. That's what the app is about as well.
It's okay.
But it's fine. Please, speak with other people, and we'll definitely, speak behind the camera after this. But thank you very much, Dr. Funke Olofin, for coming on the show today. Thank you so much for being with me, my co-host.
Oh, aren't you forgetting something?
Yeah.
We have a package for our guests.
Yes! How can I forget? Thank you on behalf of State of the Culture. This is your package for joining us, so you can actually receive it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, State of the Culture. Thank you, other hosts.
Yes, and host, co-host. Don't worry, it's fine.
We get it.
We'll get to it. No problem. Like I said, safe space. Okay. Thank you so much for reminding me.
No, it's my pleasure.
Now I'm happy that you're back here. I know I was saying that I was happy.
Oh, I'm feeling myself.
Thank you very much. Oh well.
Okay, signing off. My
yeah, Nafisat and Abdurrahman. We hope you did not just watch this for watching sake. We hope you learned a lot and you'll reach out to those that were not or have not been able to watch this session. Please let them know. It's very important.
And this guy.
Social professor.
Jesus Christ. Hey, well done, people. It's Fredrick. Don't forget, health is wealth. Signing out.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode. I'm Justina, and I'll see you in another next. Thank you.